All right, so on today at 30 teams in 30 days, we talking about the Utah Jazz. They just locked up Donovan Mitchell to that, that massive deal that we see all those guys from that draft class getting now 100 and I think it's $95 million, 5 years. Is well deserved. He's been outstanding, and they still have Bogan Bogdanovic. They just locked up Jordan Clarkson. He's been their sixth man off the bench. They still have Mike Conley. And Rudy Gobert, he's obviously been in the defensive player of the year for the last 3, 4 years. And Joe Ingles, like, they have a great team, but, they just can't seem to get over that hump. They always, like that 4 or 5 seed in the West, but always get knocked out in the first round. And it's always pretty easy. So what can Utah do to get over the hump?
I mean, I don't know about them always getting knocked out in the first round. They upset it OKC with Paul George and Russell Westbrook, and they took the Denver Nuggets to 7 games this year as an underdog, and they didn't even have Bojan Bogdanovic. So I think we need to put more respect on Utah, on the Utah name. I mean, in terms of them getting over the hump, I don't think it's them getting over the hump. If we just look at this team, like, yes, they have Donovan Mitchell, but Donovan Mitchell is their best player, and then who would you say? Rudy Gobert? Like, they're just not as talented as everybody else in the West. They're not as talented as the Lakers. They don't have LeBron and AD. They don't have Kawhi and Paul George. They don't have Clay and Steph. And I don't even think this duo isn't compared with Kristaps um and
Luka.
Luca, and you know what I'm saying. So I mean, then they don't have James Harden and Russell Westbrook. So we just got to be realistic with the expectations when it comes to Utah. Them making it to the second round, like over the past 2 years, like that's an accomplishment in itself. Because a lot of people didn't even have them making the playoffs when they did. So that's the reality of the situation. Donovan Mitchell, he came in. Yes, he got that max extension, well deserved. Arguably, he's been the second best player out of that draft class. I would put Tatum one, I put Mitchell two, and then I probably put Bam at three. Everyone, yeah, so he's kind of been really the second best player. Maybe some would put Bam one, maybe some Mitchell one, but most would probably have Tatum one. But Donovan Mitchell, he's been great. He's been great, and I think Utah, what they need to do is. The problem with Utah is you're not going to get elite free agents to come to Utah. You're going to get the Bogdanovich. You're going to get the Joe Ingles. Guys that are good, but they're not, really all stars. They're just good guys. And what they have to do, you have to lock up. And when you got a Rudy Gobert, you have to lock him up to a max extension. You have to trade for a guy like Mike Conley. That's what you have to do with Utah, because you're just not going to get free agents to come there. You're just going to have to develop guys. See, they brought in Jordan Clarkson. The perfect addition for them. Perfect addition. This guy if he was with Utah the entire year, he would have been sixth man of the year. This guy was phenomenal coming off the bench in Utah. And they obviously, paid him. They obviously paid him, extended him this off season. So I'm looking at this team. Like I said, it's a pretty good team, but they're not as talented. I really just think they've been exceeding expectations the last 3 years. They've really been exceeding expectations. So I think we just got to be conscious of that. Utah, like, I can't knock Utah. I can't knock Utah because what they have been doing, what they've been showing me the past 3 years, with this roster, competing in the West, being a top 4 seed, and taking teams to 7 games, making it to the second round in the West. Like I just got to give credit to them.
Okay, well, just a couple of things. In terms of, I don't know what expectations they exceeded, because first of all, this team, coming into the season, everyone's looking at this team like, oh my God, like Utah's going to be a problem inside the Western Conference, because obviously they added Mike Conley to that dynamic. And, obviously, he's not the player that he was, but he could still play defense and he could still go get
Mike
you
Conley's
in
33 years
buckets.
old. Mike Conley's 33 years old. Let's stop the press, please.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, but he's still he's still a solid player who could go get you buckets and lock you up on the defensive end. Obviously he's not a max guy right now. He's on a max contract, so that looks kind of bad. But like he's still a really good player, and you add him to already a solid team. And it was like, okay, and then they brought on Bojan Bogdanovic and stuff, and you're like, okay, well, Utah's gonna make some noise, and then they up 3-1 against Denver, and obviously everyone, I thought it would be like the other way around, like Denver would probably be up 3-1 or something like that against Utah, but obviously Denver come back and they win that. Utah blew it. Donovan Mitchell, even though like they blew that, he still played like outstanding. Like what him and Jamal Murray traded like 50-point games twice or something like that. It was absolutely insane. But this team, like I've just not been that impressed with them. And they're in a good situation. They have a young star and they just locked him up, and they have that cornerstone piece that we see a lot of franchises still looking for. And they could build something around him. You still have Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert, he is a really good defender, and he really anchors that defense. But I feel like they've just been disappointing to me, and I just seeing the way Donovan Mitchell played in the playoffs, like the other guys just got to step up. Like they have some good pieces around him, but they just haven't been there in the playoffs. And obviously Bojan was in there in the bubble, but you up 3-1. They should
No,
have.
no, 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 no. Don't just sweep past that. Don't just sweep past that. Don't just sweep past it. Like Bojan was not there. Bojan is their second leading scorer. Come on, let's be realistic here now. Bojan was not there, so don't just sweep past that. So you can continue.
Okay, yeah, but they still have a lot of other guys. Jordan Clarkson was playing out of his mind, and they still have Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert and Joe Ingles and those boys. So I feel like you up 3-1 against Denver, like you should have been able to close that deal. And obviously against the Clippers, they I don't think they would have stand a chance against the Clippers, but they you just gotta close that game. But I feel like they're in a pretty good situation. I feel like going forward, like as they continue to play together, they'll ultimately get better. But in terms of like them, like we just look at the West, like obviously, the West is gonna go to the best duos. You got the two LA teams, and then you got Jokic and Jamal Murray. And then now you got Dallas with Luka and Kristaps Porzingis. And where does Utah fall? Like what I don't really know. And then let's not forget about Russ and Harden. But like in terms of like a duo, like what do they have? They have Donovan Mitchell and Rudy. Like I don't know. Like they in terms of like just star power and like players who could like get you over the hump. Donovan Mitchell is phenomenal, but like he's not gonna be enough like in the Western Conference like as presently constructed.
So you're telling me you're disappointed in Utah, then you're telling me the team is not good enough to compete in the West. Come on, you got to make up your mind. You got to make up your mind. When has Utah been a top 4 seed? When has they look at this roster, right? The past 3 years, when have they been one of the 4 most talented teams in the West? The past 3 years.
This year for sure.
This year they were so they were better than. I'll give you 4 teams right now. Lakers, were they better than Lakers? If you're giving me the shot, would you? No. Are they better than Lakers? Roster wise,
no,
Clippers,
no.
Clippers, Houston.
Yeah, I feel like
Oh
in
my
terms
goodness!
of
Oh my goodness! You have to be kidding me!
in terms of overall pieces, I feel like they were
You got to
better
be
than
kidding me!
Houston. In terms of overall pieces,
Utah's better than Houston with James Harden. The guy that averaged 36 points.
Okay, yeah,
With
obviously
Russell Westbrook, the guy that
obviously they
averaged
have
triple
James
double
Harden and
3
Russell
seasons.
Westbrook, but what else does Houston really have? They just have a bunch of guys, who you said like were bench players who they made.
PJ Tucker, Robert Covington, Eric Gordon, all those guys. Are you forgetting about those guys? You got Austin Rivers coming off the bench.
Yeah,
You got Daniel House. Come on, let's be realistic. They weren't even better than Denver.
In terms of talent,
you taking?
I put
Jamal
them
Murray? You have to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. And I haven't even mentioned Dallas was a great team. Were they better than Portland roster wise?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh my goodness. So you're telling me Rudy Gobert.
Okay, no,
and
okay,
Mitchell
okay.
let's
List off. Listen to these players that Utah has. They have Donovan Mitchell. Joe Ingles is a shooter. He's really good. Rudy Gobert, defensive play. He won it back to back, and then obviously he's in the conversation again. And then you got Mike Conley, Jordan Clarkson, and Bojan Bogdanovic. Like this team roster wise, like coming into
okay,
this
Bojan was not there for the playoffs.
Okay, no, but we just talked about roster and talent.
Bojan was not there for the playoffs. You're telling me you're disappointed in them. You're telling me so, meaning wherever they were at for the finals, you were disappointed in them wherever they reached. As far as they reached, Bojan was not there.
They blew a
Bojan was not there.
They blew a
Mike
3-1
Conley is 33 years old. Rudy Gobert gives you nothing on offensive end. So if you're telling me Donovan Mitchell and Jordan Clarkson is really the great duo that should take down all these teams in the West, you have to be kidding me. So I think we got to stop the press. Utah is not a top 5 talented team in the West. They never were ever. I don't know when the last time they were. I really don't. Maybe when they had Paul Millsap in those spots. That was really last time. So we just got to be realistic. You're looking at it. We're seeing they blew a 3-1 lead to Denver Nuggets. If you're telling me if you're up 3-1, then you should win that. I'll give you that. But I was looking at the team. It's like they shouldn't have been 3-1 up 3-1 in the first place. And everyone else knew it because everybody else thought Denver was going to beat them 4-1. The fact they were up 3-1 was a shock in itself. So yes, they blew the lead, but I didn't think they should have been there in the first place. So we gotta look at this team. We gotta be realistic with these teams. I don't think we can knock these teams. These boys have been a consistent top 5 seed in the West really the past 4 years. Because even that last year, Gordon Hayward was there. They were competing, and they got to the second round. They beat Russell Westbrook and Paul George. Last year they lost to Houston in round 1, which Houston was the better team by far. Obviously, Houston was the better team. I think everybody would give them that. And this year, they lost in 7 games to the Denver Nuggets, who obviously went to the conference finals. The Denver Nuggets that beat the Clippers, and they were out their second best player in Bogdanovich. Come on, let's be realistic.
But let's not forget that Denver was missing a lot of players too. Like they had a lot of guys who came back
They were missing Will Barton.
And Gary Harris came back. I think like game 5, game 6, and that was part of the reason why they was down 3-1. So Denver was missing guys too, and I feel like they were supposed to win that one.
Oh, so you're telling me Denver was more talented now? Is what you're saying? So now you're saying Denver was more talented. Now you're saying Denver was missing guys, meaning Denver had the most talent. Come on, like you got to pick a side.
No, I'm saying that even though Bojan was out, Denver was missing guys too, and even with Denver missing guys, and you up 3-1 on that team, that should be more reason why you should close that deal.
Yeah, I'm saying if you want to tell me they should have closed the deal, I would give you that. But I'm looking at the situation. They should have never been up 3-1 in the first place. That's how I'm looking at it. I cannot take the Miami Heat and then say, okay, you guys lost to the Lakers in the finals, so I'll say that's a finals loss for you. That's a finals loss for Jimmy Butler. I cannot do that because I didn't think they should have been in the finals in the first place. The fact that they were even there is an accomplishment in itself. Because the team was not as talented as those other teams that made it there.
Okay, no, that Miami making it to the finals, that's an accomplishment in itself, because nobody really had them making it there. But this team, this talented team, like you up 3-1, you just gotta close that deal. Like the reality situation is, even though they wasn't supposed to be up 3-1 or Denver was supposed to win the series, convincingly, like the reality situation is that's what happened. We only know what happened, and we know they choked. And this team, they obviously they could have closed that.
Okay, they could have closed the deal, but like I said, I didn't think they should have been there in first place. I think Utah will compete this year. Do I see a top 5 seed? I don't know. I think Lakers, Clippers. Let me see. You got Dallas. You got. I think Portland will be better. I think they'll probably get a top 5 seed. Maybe around 4 or 5. They got continuity. They got the same coach. They're bringing back most of their players, so I think that will help. They'll be a top 5 seed, but in terms of competing for a championship, I really don't see it right now. They got to bring in some more pieces around Donovan Mitchell, and then his relationship with Rudy Gobert. We don't know how that is going to deteriorate. So I don't know. We'll just have to see with this team.